Perfect. Yeah, so we can get going, and anyone else who logs in can join as they go. So yeah, thanks so much again for joining tonight's session. You're all very welcome. My name is Roisin. I coordinate the Young Environmentalist Awards. You've probably received a million emails from me over the past few weeks or months. There's something else coming in there now. So just a really quick cover of what we're going to cover today. So the first thing we're going to do is just a really quick reminder of ECO-UNESCO's Young Environmentalist Awards, especially the supports that are available to you and your group, all the different award categories and the submission requirements as well for your project. The submission deadline is fast approaching. We're also going to look at the young environmentalist community, which I also want to emphasize as well. And this session is all about the marking scheme, which I'm going to focus on. So the second half of the session is all about the marking scheme. So we're going to look at some of the criteria for grading the projects in the EcoDen semi-finals, and also what the judges will be looking for, and then some tips as well to help your group stand out as well. And then we're going to end with some where to find some more information, support and resources as well. So I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. So probably I might finish within about 40 minutes and then leave some time at the end as well for any questions. Please do ask questions if you do have any. I know some of you have entered before in the past and others are new to the Young Environmentalist Awards as well. So please do ask any questions. You can stop me at any point throughout the session. You can raise your hand or write into the chat or just speak out. If you do have any questions, please do ask. So really quickly then, just who are ECO-UNESCO, just for anyone who's new to join us this year. So ECO-UNESCO are a registered charity, an NGO, and we basically focus on environmental youth education. So we were founded in 1986, and ever since then we have worked with schools and youth groups all across Ireland, and we really try to facilitate young people to not only understand environmental issues a bit better, but also become empowered to actually get involved and take action on an environmental issue that they care about. So we operate with the mindset of thinking globally and acting locally, which I'll explain a little bit about later on in the session. I do explain this. We run a wide range of different education, training and youth programs, and also for mentors as well. One of the programs that we do is the Young Environmentalist Awards, which I'm going to focus on today. So also just a really quick reminder that there was a previous mentor support session just before Christmas, and that is still available and completely free to watch for any registered mentors. So if you have registered, then the link should have been sent to you, and any new registration since this session, the link to watch this back is at the bottom of your registration email. So this session has lots of information about supporting young environmentalists and also the benefits of the Young Environmentalists for young people, and also the curriculum links as well, which can be really useful to know. So if you haven't received this link, do let me know and I can just send it on to you as well. So then really quickly then, so the Young Environmentalist Awards, so it's basically an all-Ireland programme that recognises and rewards young people aged between 10 and 18. They basically reward them who they take action to raise environmental awareness and improve the environment. So the Young Environmentalist Awards are open to all young people aged 10 to 18 in schools or youth groups, and the project submissions are due in February. So it was originally the 19th of February that submissions were due. We've actually extended it now until the 28th of February. So it gives you another few weeks to actually submit your project and get the last little finishing touches as well. So then just a reminder of some of the project categories. So we have 12 different categories to choose from. So everything from biodiversity to energy, climate change, water, food, marine transport, eco art and design, eco innovation, eco community development, eco health and well-being, and waste. When you register, you were asked to choose a category, but just to remind you as well that you can actually change your category at any time if you feel like your project is kind of veering towards a different category. Just let me know, just send me an email with your project name and code, and we can change that as well, no problem. So there is awards in each of these categories, each of these 12 categories for the senior age group, which is 15 to 18, the junior age group, which is 12 to 14, and the super junior group as well. We also do some additional awards. So we do the Local to Global SDG Award, which I'll explain a little bit about next. We also do the Further Growth Award, which I'll also explain as well. And then we do the People's Choice Award and then the Eco Mentor of the Year Award, just to kind of recognise the work that mentors also put in to supporting young environmentalists as well. Yeah, Mairead, I think you have a question.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to ask about the local to global. Can that
Yes.
be the primary category, or does there have to be another one as well?
No, it can be the primary category if you
Okay.
want to focus on that. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So yeah, so the Further Growth Award is something we're trying to emphasize going forward as well. So this is actually open to all projects who've entered in previous years before YEA 2023. So any project that was entered in the past, they can actually be entered again as a Further Growth Award if they have been developed further. So it doesn't necessarily need to be the same students who take this project on. It can be passed on to the next TY students, for example, or other students in the school, as long as it's the same project and developed further, it can actually it may be eligible for a Further Growth Award. So the benefit of this award is basically that all the legwork for this project has already been done when it was initially registered and entered in previous years. So basically all you need to do for this award, if you did want to enter a previous project again, is basically identify what went well, what didn't go well, and then also show evidence of further action and awareness raised since it was registered previously. And then the Local to Global SDG Award. This is basically an award which projects are eligible for if they can find and highlight a link between their action project and the Sustainable Development Goals. So the Young Environmentalist Awards are very focused on these Sustainable Development Goals. So some of you might be familiar with this graphic already. If you're not, it's basically these goals represent 17 really specific targets, which basically in the year 2015, 193 countries out of 195 countries in the world, so nearly every single country in the world got together and they actually agreed on these 17 goals, which they want to address to highlight issues in society, but also the environment. So basically 17 really interconnected goals which benefit people and planet to hopefully achieve these goals by the year 2030 is their goal. But if you look at some of them there, you can see just how complex some of them are. So goal number 2, for example, is zero hunger. So you might look at this and think it's such a complex issue. How can we ever solve zero hunger? There's so much going on with it. But if you actually look at their website, which is unsdg.org, it actually gives specific targets and plans of action for each of these goals, which can be really useful to kind of become familiar with if you did want to go to or enter into the Local to Global SDG Award as well. There's also more information on the specific Local to Global SDG Award on pages 36, 39 of the YEA manual, which you should have received in your submission folder. And it basically goes with the motto to think globally but act locally. So basically, it's looking at what global issues are in the world that might threaten sustainable development and what local actions can your project group do to actually impact benefit local sustainable development and also on a global scale as well. But there is more information on that in the manual as well. And then just a reminder of some of the supports and resources that are available to you as a mentor and also your group. So we have the program manual, page by page kind of tips are in this session as well, on what pages to find what information. We have the inspiration for projects, which is also in your submission folder. And the Young Environmentalist Awards finalist booklet from last year is actually now on our website as well, which you can download for free. And as always, please don't hesitate to contact me at any point. My number is on all the emails if you do want to chat through your project in more detail, or if you need any support as well, just always, you're always welcome to contact me as well. And then the Young Environmentalist Community is something that we're also launching this year. So it's basically just to emphasize that all entries to the Young Environmentalist Awards, they're all very important members of the Young Environmentalist community. So while it does reward and recognize young people with awards, it's also not just about awards. So once the young people enter into the Young Environmentalist Awards, they are encouraged to continue their work into the future, such as entering for the Further Growth Award, but they also can be a part of the Young Environmentalist community, which is basically an opportunity to help them connect with like-minded youth who are passionate about environmental issues. And we're also going to be offering some workshops for networking, skill development, and environmental resources as well. So just keep an eye out for them. So now we're going to go on to the submission now really quickly. I did cover this in the previous mentor session, so do please look back on that if you do have any more questions. I do go into more detail there, but just to highlight some of the necessary things that are required for your project submission. So when you registered, you should have received an email that looks like this on the screen. So it had the details of the project, details of your submission folder. If you've registered more than one project, you would have received multiple emails. Each individual project has their own individual registration folder and submission folder and email as well. And then the link to your submission folder, which is in this email, should look something like this. So this is basically where you will upload your final submission project. So this folder contains resources and supports, but also the submission form, which will need to be filled in. And there's also submission requirements there, which is useful to look through the submission guideline document, which can give you a good indication of exactly what's required, and also a folder inside that folder, which is basically for the 1 minute video. So this is basically every submission is needed to submit a 1 minute video, which is basically a pitch of their project. So a really short and sweet video, which is similar to what you would present at a Dragon's Den kind of style format, for example. So basically the only two things that you need to complete your submission is number one, complete the project submission form, which is in your folder, and then number two, submit the 1 minute video. So all the guidelines and specific requirements for this 1 minute video is in the submission guidelines document, which is in your folder. And as I said, the deadline for the project submission is now the 28th of February, which gives about 4 or 5 weeks to kind of get the final touches on your project. So do make sure that your project folder, the code and the project name matches your project. Just if there is any technical issues or mix up, just please do let me know so we can correct that for you as well. So the rough timeline for the YEA, so we're now in January and the submission date is fast approaching. So once you submit your project, if you have your completed submission form and the 1 minute video, successful projects are then invited to our ECO-Den semi-finals, which we're looking at the last 2 weeks in March and before Easter holidays. We're trying to fit the ECO-Dens in there. So we're going to have regional eco-dens. So we're going to have them in Leinster, Munster, Ulster and Connacht. The venues will be confirmed soon, but we are looking at the last 2 weeks in March. So it's going to be an in-person option, but also if people would prefer to do an online submission as well, or online eco-den pitch, then they're welcome to do so as well. But as I said, details of this will be announced shortly. So basically in these eco-dens, the young people will have the opportunity to present or pitch their projects to a panel of environmental experts, similar to Dragon's Den. And then the finalists are chosen from that, invited to our final showcase day, which is in May. So this final showcase award ceremony will be in Dublin. It will be a fun day out with events, talks, workshops, music, and then the award ceremony as well. That's just a kind of a brief overview of a timeline from now until May. And now we're going to look at the marking scheme. So the marking scheme for the Young Environmentalist Awards is basically split into 6 different areas on where they can get marked. So this will be marked on the submission form in your submission folder, your 1 minute video, and also the presentation they'll do at the ECO-Dens. And basically, these 6 different areas basically match up to the 6 steps to success framework, which is basically in your submission folder as well. So the 6 steps to success is basically a framework for action projects, which ECO-UNESCO has put together. And it's basically a step-by-step kind of guide for young people to create an action project. So the 6 different areas which they're marked kind of match up to these different steps. So in the YA manual, it's actually on page 72, right at the back. It has a really useful checklist of everything in each of those steps to see if you've done everything. So there's some really useful pointers and tips to consider. And also some of these questions may be possible judge questions, so just to keep that in mind. So step 1 is to get a team together. Step 2 is selecting an environmental issue and researching that issue. Step 3 is developing an action plan. Step 4 is taking action. Step 5 is raising awareness. And then step 6 is reflection. So if we look at that in terms of marking scheme, so basically every project has a maximum score of 150 points. That's the maximum points per project. And it's marked on these 6 individual areas using some specific criteria, which I will go through in some more detail in a while. So basically, of this 150 marks in total, 10 marks of this go towards step 1, which is how you got your team together. 30 marks of this goes towards detailing the details of researching and selecting the environmental issue. The development of your action plan can get a maximum of 30 marks. Evidence of taking action is also 30 marks. Evidence of raising awareness is also 30 marks. And personal development is then a maximum of 20 marks that a project can get. So 150 marks in total, split into these 6 different marking criteria. So I'm going to go through them now kind of individually with some little pointers and tips and what the judges may look out for. So step 1 then is getting your team together. So as I said, it's 10 marks maximum that a team can get, which is about 7% of the total project score. So what some of the things the judges will be looking for, they'll be looking for evidence of how your team planned to work together and develop skills. So some examples of this would be looking for a clear description or explanation, perhaps, of how the group decided to allocate the different roles. Maybe they'll look for a clear description of which roles were chosen for each team member and maybe why. And then maybe they might ask, did they make a team contract? So some of these little tips are in the YA manual from page 17 to 24. So just to keep some of those in mind, some of those things to get the 10 marks maximum for getting your team together. The second criteria then for marking is selecting an environmental issue. So this is 30 marks maximum can go towards this criteria, which is about 20% of the total project score. So some of the things that they'll look for to get the full 30 marks, so 10 marks would go towards evidence of how your team selected the issue. So maybe why they selected the issue, any background story perhaps of what motivated them to maybe act on this particular category. Another 10 marks then will go towards evidence of knowledge of the environmental issue. So this would maybe look for some evidence of the research that they did, some resources that they looked at. I would really recommend here, in the past, I think a lot of groups referenced the likes of Wikipedia, for example, or newspaper articles with no real citations as such. One really good source would be the EPA website, and some really good really good reports on that in nearly every single environmental issue that we have in Ireland. So there's some very good information there, and it's quite a well acknowledged source as well, which might look good. So yes, that's 10 marks towards environmental issue and the knowledge of it. And then 5 marks then on this section goes towards the evidence of understanding the cause and effect of environmental issue. So this is the 5 marks that go towards that. So an example of this would be, let's say, plastic pollution, for example, and the cause could be maybe too much plastic is being produced, is not being properly disposed of, for example. So just little an evidence of maybe how human interaction and human activities can maybe cause this environmental issue. And then finally, in the selecting the environmental issue, the last 5 marks then go towards evidence of linking local to global, such as the Sustainable Development Goals, for example. So this might be a question that sometimes comes up for the judges. Some of them might ask, what Sustainable Development Goals does your project maybe link with? So basically, with these Sustainable Development Goals, they're all very, very connected. So if your project is, for example, an energy project, for example, I've kind of marked off there some of the Sustainable Development Goals which you could interact with, but they're all very connected. So they kind of interact with all of them. But some of them in particular, for example, could be number 1, which is no poverty, seeing as the energy and cost of living crisis can sometimes impact the poverty rate, for example. It could be number 3, seeing as fossil fuel energy may cause some air pollution and impact your good health and well-being. So just to kind of think outside the box would be probably really good advice, just to kind of see how your category and how your environmental issue might link in with some of these sustainable development goals. And that's the 5 marks that goes towards that. And as I said earlier, there's really good information on the making this connection from your project and sustainable development goals on page 36 to 39 of the YA manual, if you did want to have a look at that as well. And then number 3, so the third marking criteria that your project may be graded against is developing an action plan. So this is a maximum of 30 marks as well, which is about 20% of the total project score. So some of the things that the judges might be looking for is to get the full 30 marks, 10 points or 10 marks, it would go towards evidence of clear project planning. So a tip that I'd give for this is to have the project plan nice and organized, nice and clear, have it very clear what the plan was to do. The next 10 points then go towards evidence of clear aims and objectives. So a group will really stand out if they do have clearly set out aims and objectives, what they want to do, what they want to achieve, for example, how they're going to do it. And then finally, the last 10 points then of the 30 marks in total goes towards evidence of problem solving. So one thing we could do for that, for example, is your group could maybe list any issues or challenges that they faced throughout their project and how they overcame them or how they dealt with them, for example. It's really, really good to show that as well. So for some useful activities for mentors in your group, for this section to get the full marks, is on page 41 to 47 of the YA manual. So some really useful activities there. If your group do any activities in the YA manual, they can also highlight them. So they can highlight some activities that they did, which will also look very good. So the fourth criteria then that they're marked on, again, 30 marks maximum, another 20% of the total project score, is evidence of taking action. So some things that the judges might be looking for is 20 marks. So a really big chunk of the total marks goes towards clear evidence and description of actions carried out. So if you've done more than one action, you can list them individually. If you've done one action, you can go into it as well in detail. But of this, so this is 20 marks. So this is really, really big. So just to emphasize that the Young Environmentalist Awards, it's really important to have the initial environmental research in place on that issue and the cause and effect of that issue, but really, really important as well to also have proof of action. So this evidence of action is a maximum of 13% of the total marks available, which is really, really big. So that's 20 marks. And then the next 10 marks on taking action is just to have clear relevance of the action taken to the project aims and objectives. So make sure they're linked and make sure they're connected. And that goes back to the developing an action plan. So make sure you're developing an action plan and the action that's taken, there is some relevance and links between that. which will look really good as well. So just some tips then as well, just for the action. So once you have evidence of action, one good thing to kind of look at is thinking outside the box, thinking about wide actions. So maybe you could mention involvement if you've done it out with people outside of the group, such as other classes within the school, for example, getting them involved. It could also involve people in the community, local businesses, letters to policymakers on your issue also looks very, very good as another kind of action as well. And then some judges also kind of ask, could this project be continued in future years? So could this project have a long-term legacy, for example, in the school or community? Is it something they can develop further as well? So there's some useful tips as well for this. I'd highly recommend keeping minutes of all the team meetings with your action project group. There's some templates for keeping minutes as well in the YA manual from page 49 to 53. There's some really good resources in there as well, which might be useful. So the second last marking criteria then is all about raising awareness. So once again, a maximum of 30 marks, which is about 20% of the total project score. And it's all about how you raise awareness of all the really hard work that you've done on your project. So some things that the judges will be looking for, this is split into 3 different criteria, so 10 marks each. So the first thing they look for is evidence of awareness raising with the school itself or the youth group itself. So did you raise awareness in your class? Did you raise awareness in other gear groups, for example? Was school management involved? Were teachers involved? That kind of all falls into that kind of criteria. Another 10 marks then goes towards any evidence of awareness raising with the wider community. So this could be the public in the community, for example, and this could be some local businesses maybe that are involved in this environmental issue, for example, or they could help, for example. So that's another 10 marks. And then the last 10 marks then for raising awareness is if there's any evidence of raising awareness with maybe external organizations or policymakers, for example. So this could be maybe getting a guest speaker in. I know a lot of groups sometimes do that. This could fall under that category. And also writing a letter perhaps to your local TD or other policymakers as well on your issue. I'd recommend doing that as well. It also looks very, very good. So that is the 30 marks then. So some little useful tips on how to raise awareness. There's some toolkits for raising awareness in the YA manual from page 55 to 63. So some examples of this could be maybe a press release in your local newspaper, for example, or if you have a school newsletter, you can include this as well. You could perhaps do a social media campaign, depending on the age of your group. You could also do maybe an event organization, do little posters, perhaps, for example, lobbying then, so maybe contacting policymakers, and then just good communication as well. Some groups tend to do some education sessions as well with maybe younger school groups on the issue as well to get them involved, which is a really good way as well to raise awareness. Some other little tips then as well. So if you do have a social media account, if you do have any posts or you do post about your project, be sure to also tag us on social media. If we see that tag, we can actually share it as well and help your group to raise further awareness of their project. And they can include that as well in their project portfolio as well, which also looks good. So on Instagram, for example, which a lot of young people tend to make an account on for their group. You can tag our ECO-UNESCO page. And we also have a separate page for Young Environmentalist Awards. So if you tag both of them, we'll also try to share it on our end, try to help your group raise awareness of all the hard work that they've done as well. And then finally, the last criteria, which will be marked on, is in terms of personal development. So this is 20 marks maximum. So getting your team together was 10 marks. The middle 4, selecting environmental issue, developing an action plan, taking action and raising awareness were all 30 marks maximum. And then this personal development is 20 marks maximum. So this personal development section basically looks at two different things. So they look at some evidence of learner development, for example, anything they might have learnt in relation to environmental knowledge, for example, on their issue, or any other, even the sustainable development goals would fall under this. So if they learnt about sustainable development goals, it would really be good to maybe mention that in here. And then also the second thing they look for is any evidence of learner development. So this could be any skills that they developed. So maybe organization, for example, teamwork skills, social media skills, for example, event management, if they did a little event, for example, any of this is really, really good to include. And also any evidence of future action plans. So if your project could be developed again in future years, it would be great to mention that as well, just to have a momentum behind that, to have a future development of that project. So the submission form as well also has some team reflection in this part, which will also be filled out, which would be great when you're doing that in submission form, to also kind of think of what you're going to say in the EcoDen as well in terms of personal development. So this personal development is kind of split into three. So it's team reflection, and so as a team, just to reflect as a team, individual reflection, and then mentor reflection as well. So some things that to consider is maybe your achievements. So I know a huge amount of work goes into your projects in the Young Environmentalist Awards. So focusing on what went right. And then another thing you can focus on is any challenges that you may have faced, any barriers. If you did it again, what could you maybe improve? What would you do differently? And it's a huge learning experience. A lot of people, it's very rare to get it right the first time round. Do you know, it is a learning experience. There's a huge amount of work involved. So focus on your achievements, focus on your challenges, focus on any changes and improvements. And there are some tips as well for this on page 65 to 69 of the YEA manual. So that's basically the marking scheme. And then just a reminder that the manual does have really useful information if you did want to go through the 6 steps and make sure, especially at the end, and the page I mentioned at the end, which has the checklist, which is really, really useful as well to kind of go through. So yeah, just some tips just to check the manual and the resources in the submission folder. If you do have any questions or if you want any clarity on anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. You can email me, or my phone number is there as well, 086 704 3400. Know it off by heart at this point by saying it off so much. But yeah, you can call me at any point as well if you do want any advice or guidance coming up to the submission deadline. And as I said, the deadline then is midnight, 28th of February 2023, which gives another 4 or 5 weeks to get all the final touches put in. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you do have any questions, I'm free to take any questions if you do have any. So yeah, thank you so much for joining, and I hope that helped, and I hope it made sense to everyone as well.
Thanks very much, Roisin. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, if anyone thinks of any questions later, feel free to email me. My contact details are there. You can contact the YEA email, yaa@ecounesco.ie, or roisin.fitzgerald@ecounesco.ie as well. You can email them at any point just for any clarity, if you want any more information. And yeah, if you think of any questions later, do send them on, and I'll be sending this link of recording as well to you. Just so you can rewatch as well in case you want to look back on anything.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
No problem.
Roisin.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye bye.
Bye bye.